I'm Phil.
And I'm Phil.
And here we are at the Phil and Phil
show. So welcome everybody to our show. What episode are we on, Phil?
Wow, that's a great question. Like 15 or something. I don't know. We've been going for quite a while now.
We'll have to count how many we've done.
And we've done it every week. That's impressive.
Week. Yep, we've managed it every week.
It's so cool. Anyway, I'm just gonna post it. I just put it on mine. We'll get it in other places later. So
yep.
It's too slow and I end up staring at the screen, so
yeah.
All right. Well, here we are.
Lighting. You
got your lighting good.
Yeah, it doesn't look great my side on my little picture on the screen, but if it looks good from your side, that's great.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just got back from Tree of Life, or the last of Tree of Life. So, I was down at Tree of Life, Patagonia, Gabriel Cousins' place, and basically he's leaving the country. He's going to move to Israel. So.
Oh, wow.
In about 3 weeks. So, or 3 or 4 weeks. I can't remember the exact date. So.
That's a biggie, Phil.
Yeah, it's huge. So.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
I'm happy for him. I think it's good. He's getting, you know, I mean, it's not, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's good for him. He knows people over there. He's got family, friends, you know, I think it'll be good for him. So he'll connect with his kind of roots, his tradition.
Absolutely. That is the place to go for his tradition, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So he seems really happy, and so does Shanti. I think Shanti's done with the desert. It's just been too dry for her, you know, so too dry and hot. So
isn't Israel deserty then?
I think it's different. I think there's more moisture and more ability to grow and stuff like that. I think it's a little bit easier. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, Phil.
Yeah. So yeah, they just sold. They sold the property like a year ago or something, and they just sold the Oasis, which is the lower property where they had the spa and stuff like that. That just sold last week. So
wow.
He basically just came in meditation like a few weeks ago or something, and he just was like, "We gotta leave." So and that was it. And the next thing, they're packing the house, and yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, we really are now. I think, if I've got it written down, I think we're coming, well, I don't think, I know we're coming into a big astrological thing, aren't we?
Yep.
So you've got some
well, they said right now we're moving in the moon is in Libra. So right now there's actually a lot of positive energy coming onto the planet as well as all the craziness. So this is a good time to like be in nature, meditate, like really connect with like this kind of energies coming onto the planet that are really positive right now. They can help us deal with all the negative. So,
I mean, I think it's all positive, Phil, because you know you've got October the 11th and 12th. You've got Jupiter going conjunct Pluto.
Okay.
And there's a new moon on the 12th of October as well. So Jupiter's about expansion, growth, and travel. Mm-hmm. And Pluto's about death and rebirth. It's about change. It's about the phoenix rising from the ashes. So even though it looks like we're in very dark, turbulent times, we are. Except this is the death and rebirth. We're being squeezed down the canal for our rebirth, which is coming, from what I can gather, sometime kind of around March. Even though that sounded like I knew what I was talking about, I made notes from a video that I was watching, and we've got a lot of amazing astrological stuff happening over the next 6 months.
Right.
Again, we've just had an amazing 6 months. And we're going to get some big astrological hits, some conjunctions and trines, and I think Mars goes off. Mars goes off on a wander soon, so that's going to create all sorts of chaos. but yeah, it's all about rebirth. So that's really exciting, isn't it? Transformation and rebirth is what's
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's what I just said then. I've got a bit of paper back and I can't find it now. So,
Yeah, I think this is really the most amazing time, like we've been in our lifetimes. I mean, we could look at it as really negative, of conflict, of, you know, but really it's like everything's just coming to the surface for us to face, to go through that, to transform. It has been there all along, and now it's just right in your face. I think we're finding out more about the manipulation, the brainwashing, all that stuff. We're seeing it head on, and some part of us going, you know, we're resisting it and going, no, not me. And then you go, oh, well, wait a minute. Like, I've been brainwashed too. I just was watching this on the Iconic, David Icke's platform. He's got this guy who's just talking about kind of just the brainwashing that we're having, you know, through social media and the people behind all the different campaigns. There's a giant group called Cambridge Analytica, and they're basically behind all of these just memes that are in society, whether it's Make America Great Again. And like, these were all things that were formulated way before the campaign started. And it's based on looking at, you know, the things that people connect with and the psychology. And it goes back to, you know, Edward Bernays, you know, the founder of the PR movement, the propaganda movement, you know, and we know about Bernays and the stuff he did with making cigarette smoking sexy to women. And they connected it, like women weren't smoking cigarettes, and the cigarette industry went to Bernays and they're like, well, we need help here. So women weren't smoking, so he connected women with the movement of, I think it's like Light Up for Freedom or something like that. And like images of women walking, there was like this whole propaganda of these women walking down the street and lighting up these cigarettes and like, and connecting them into this movement. And there's like, and this is just getting, you know, that was the early stages, and now it's just infiltrated our whole society and social media and the government. And behind all of these is, you know, is the military intelligence, the CIA, all of those things. And it's just like, wow, like every aspect of society is just 100% manipulated.
yeah, absolutely. You know, the whole, you know, if you looked at MK Ultra, the whole brainwashing, you know, it's just, and we're all brainwashed. It doesn't matter what we're in, we're all brainwashed. And the challenge is deciphering what's true and what's brainwashing.
Right.
You know, for all of us. You know, it's like really when I look at alternative medicine and look at the path that I've trodden. So you come from normal medicine where you've got a problem and they give you a solution, or they give you a problem and then they give you a solution. So you're treating symptoms, and this, you know, if you look at nutrition, they're kind of looking at what deficiencies you've got and what problems you've got, and then let's give you a herb or a vitamin or mineral to fix that problem. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I love about what Dr. Morse does is, you know, if you've got a calcium problem, so if you've got tendon, ligaments, joints, osteoporosis problem, then it's going to be a parathyroid issue. Mm-hmm. So para meaning above, so it's the thyroid that sits above the thyroid. Mm-hmm. So instead of giving a calcium supplement or more magnesium or take this vitamin and that vitamin to support the calcium, what Morse is doing is saying, right, let's look at the glandular system. Let's rebuild the parathyroid. So if you've got a calcium issue, it's actually calcium utilization. So okay. What we've got to do is look at that gland, so that gland can then rebuild. So we can use the herbs to rebuild and re-energize that gland, so that gland can actually start the utilization of calcium. Mm-hmm. So, you know, even in the alternative medicine stuff, it's kind of a run-on of the medical profession, which is trying to treat symptoms.
Right.
So you look like you've got a calcium deficiency, which on one level you've got a calcium deficiency. But on the other level, it's not a calcium deficiency, it's a calcium utilization issue. Mm-hmm. So depending on how far you track back through that, and of course you can then track back to the emotions and everything that's then attached to the parathyroid. So we've got to dig deeper. We've just got everything. We've got to dig deeper. And also, Phil, I was talking to Kay about today about the darkness and all the stuff that's now coming to the surface. And and actually the only way we can truly heal that is to heal that darkness within ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Susan was making a noise in the background. So.
Did you do that to me? 1 minute.
No, you keep going. Sorry.
That's fine. So, so this chaos that everyone's observing outside, it's a reflection of our inner world. So we haven't got to fix the outside. We haven't got to go rioting. We haven't got to go protesting. We haven't got to do anything. What we've got to do is go deep within ourselves, meditation, shamanic journeying, ritual, whatever we need to do to get into that trauma, get into those children, our inner children that we've actually held in captivity. I mention this often when we start getting on this subject. When I was fasting, I found an aspect of my inner self that I'd had locked away for 42 years. And when I found him, Manny was really upset. It's like, where have you been? And it's like, oh, I had no idea I'd locked you in that cupboard. And that little boy there was locked in the darkness all on his own.
Right.
And I think what's going on now is actually the outer reflection, the outer reality, the mastering of creation is actually, we've got to look deep within ourselves. Deep to our psyche, within ourselves, and then look at our ancestral. It's time to heal, right? And I never got when I was at school. I went to Church of England school, and they always spoke about we're born of sin, and we're born sinners, and we're born from sin, and man, I didn't get it. I couldn't see how an innocent baby that was born was actually a sinner. But when you break it down and you look at born of sin or from sin, and to me now the sin was not doing the work. Was not doing the inner emotional work with ourselves and releasing the trauma, releasing all those aspects of ourselves that we've locked down, basically locked away, shut down, shut up. Where as a child, the pain's been so great from being told that you're stupid or that you're not good enough or you can't do it or you're not doing that. That's a classic for all of us. When we're children and we get this great idea that I want to be a farmer or a gamekeeper or a woodman or a healer or, and the parents say, don't be so silly, you can't do that. And so that makes that child wrong, right? That makes that aspect of you wrong. So what do you do with that wrongness?
Just bury it away.
Bury it. It's like, really, we just put it in prison. And, that's what's coming up for me more and more this year is a feeling of being in a prison. And I know it's my own construct. I get it. I understand that. However, where are the keys? I've built this prison. I've imprisoned myself. And I know through fasting I can, without a doubt, get into that. What's your take on all that, Phil?
Genius. Yeah, I mean, and so yeah, we have done this, but then at the same time, we're born into this society that's kind of put us into this construct, and earlier and earlier capturing that kid through the schooling, the educational programming, whether it's TV or media. The kids today, it's like wow, like the media that they're born into is insane. Like it's getting all into the head, out of that heart space, all into like this becoming this kind of zombie or this, you know, just
But it puts them in the beta state, right?
Yeah.
If you look at brainwaves, when you were out playing in nature with your dog, with your cat, whatever, with all your mates, you're in alpha.
Yeah.
The same as nature. But once you stick a child behind the desk, they go into beta. And in the shamanic world, beta's classed as the realm of the living dead.
Right.
You're not manifesting. You're not You're not a co-creator when you're in beta. Step into alpha, and you're stepping into that co-creation.
Right. So all of these, it's like our soul is pure, and we have a song to sing. That's what Gabriel was talking about yesterday. Like we each have a song to sing, and that song has been, quieting down. It's like, okay, quiet, not allowed to sing your song. And I think through our process, what we're working on, and a lot of people are, is how do we find our song again? How do we sing our song?
I feel that's absolutely beautiful. I was again today. I was talking with Kay in the van. Well, we were processing a lot in the van today, and she was talking about we need an adventure. And I said to her, "We need. It's not just an adventure. We need adventure. Adventure and adventure. So instead of going away to have an adventure, we need to actually have to create an adventure. Mm-hmm. So every day, we don't need to go to Thailand to have an adventure. We need to create a life where we have an adventure every day, all day. Do you know what I mean? Life needs to be an adventure,
right?
Not Groundhog Day,
right? And that's how we create it. How do we see it? Because it's like it's all happening right now, but we've got ourselves in that construct, and we got to release that, and then see that wow, there's beauty all around us happening right now. There's miracles happening every moment. Our heart is beating, we're breathing. There's like, it's incredible.
Yeah, I know one of the surveyors I worked for about 2 years ago or so. He said to me, "So how's life treating you, Phil?" I said, "Well, to be honest, it's like Groundhog Day." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Yes." So that means it needs to change. When I saw Groundhog Day, it's like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" "I'm working." It's Saturday. I'm on the day off. I'll do some other work. Monday, I'm working. And then someone would say, "Oh, Phil, do you want to come and do this adventure?" "I can't, I'm working." And it's like, okay, this is interesting because now I'm on the Groundhog Day of working. Whereas, years ago, I was living in a caravan on the edge of the woods, didn't have a lot of money, but I had food. And I got off building stone. I went off for 5 weeks building a stone circle with an amazing stone circle builder. And we'd be out at night with his staff, lining up the stars and trying to get these, and we get his charts out and we'd line up stones. So on winter solstice at this time, the sun would hit that line, and then we're actually building it for people specifically, and over here this stone is broken, so we planted it as 2 stones, so the sun on their wedding day would rise between the 2 stones.
Whoa, you did that?
It was that accurate. Mm-hmm. It was just, and on the guy, and on he actually died on, well, I can talk about the stone circle because it was Joe Strummer's. We built a stone circle in the name of Joe Strummer. And when he died, which was amazing, was he died on winter solstice. Mm-hmm. So the winter solstice stone was also the celebration of his life. And we set that, so the the sun would come up in line with that stone. And that, that was an adventure.
Right.
Because I was there for 5 weeks. I never got paid. I paid for my own, I paid my own diesel there, my own diesel back, and got fed. And that was the deal. We had somewhere to sleep and we got fed. But that was an amazing adventure. The amount of people, the different people that from our friends groups that came down and spent a day, 2 days, a week, whatever it was. And some of the people that I made friends with on that Stone Circle, which was 2003, we're still really good buddies now, because that level of connection creates a really deep bond.
Right.
And we were doing it all by hand, and the biggest stone we did was 7 tons.
Wow.
Just with poles, levers, fulcrums.
Wow.
And unfortunately, we had a really wet 4 weeks that we were there, and in the end, Joe's wife came out and was like, "Guys, we've got to get this done. We've got to get this done." So we were like, "Right, so we'll get the 4 stones in." So we got north, south, east, and west set by hand, and then we had a digger and a crane in to set the other stones. And that was a total adventure.
Right, and that's incredible. So there's a term that's just kind of hidden in society that Gable was talking about it. Like, we are useless eaters. In other words, the human being is just useless. We're just a product. But in reality, like, when we're in alignment, we can create miracles. If we were all doing stuff like that every day, and like the time I spent in England last year, and just every day I would walk to the spring and go into the spring, and then I was like working in my dad's garden, helping him with, harvesting food or planting things. And it's just like, that's really coming into alignment with the natural rhythms, and that's when the flow happens, and that's when it's like, it's the constant adventure. And I think, we're all trying to figure out how to break out of this model of like business and corporations and having to work 9 to 5, and it's just all nonsense, because we've been made to, through schooling and through society, it's like, this is accepted. This is the thing to do. Your peers are doing it. It's good, it's like, but it's like, no, like, what? We need to connect with the rhythms and cycles of the earth, with our bodies, with spirit. So it's just reconnecting with that.
I was just out with some other friends of mine that have been my teachers. They've been my shamanic teachers, my geomancy teachers, and now, and over the years they've become really, really good friends of mine. And so I went down to do some building work and help them out. And I parked my van in the field, and they've got a stone circle in their field. So I woke up every morning and peeled my door back on my van, and there was the stone circle, just 50 yards away from me. And I go out in a field, and we got a field shower down there. So I go out it's a bit cold now, but it's just got 2 fence panels down the sides and 1 across the end, and it's got a gas-fed boiler, so when you turn the water on, it automatically instantly heats the water. So there's no roof or anything in it, no doors on it, and the sides are only about that high, because it's a proper bush sauna, right? So you can have your sauna and look all out over the Ashdown Forest and look up at the stars at night.
Wow.
It's heaven. But when it's cold and windy like it was last night and the night before, you've got to be quick, right? But it's like, and we need this magic.
That's enlivening. That got to be quick, and it's like, it's just ignites that spark in you.
Where I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. We'll have to get Alex on one day, Phil. And I was talking to him on his show, and and I said, he was talking about different things, and I said, Alex, you're talking about convenience, and convenience is exactly what's going to kill you. Mm-hmm. Because the shower in the house, it's all convenient and it's all lovely, but it's like there's no thrill there. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean a thrill like you're driving fast or you're skydiving, but this really gentle thrill it's a thrill because it's cold, you've got to be quick, it's invigorating rather than just, it's not an adrenal thrill.
Right.
It's
Well, yeah. Well, when I came to England for that month, I had this urge to do these cold showers every day, and it wasn't like, I think I was doing like a minute or 2 minutes or something, but it was like trying to reawaken, like awaken myself, you know. It's like, and I didn't get a high from it. It just was like kind of just like to feel this body, to feel who I am, and reconnect with that. And it was just.
And at the same time, though, Phil, it is a thrill. It is a high, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a natural high. It's not like that fake social media high where you get likes or something. It's just like, yeah, like it's good and it's lasting, you know.
Yeah. And that's, I was talking to I've got a friend of mine that he does practitioner support. He works for a company selling, I think I've spoken about this before, selling the nano metals. So he does the practitioner support for this nanos metal company, and he's a really, really interesting guy, and I've been to visit him twice now, and he was talking about, he used to work in drug rehabilitation, and in that he was talking about where they used to take the clients and they go in the sauna and they do saunas, cold showers, remineralization and water for 6 hours.
Whoa.
And he said in that time, if you're in there for that long, because it's really uncomfortable, or the physical pain comes up, and then you can massage those bits, and then the emotional stuff comes up, the emotional trauma comes up, you know, all of this stuff starts to come up, and you work it out with the heat and the cold showers, and you have to sit in that uncomfortable stuff. You know, and that's where the healing actually is, in the discomfort. You know, I've never had healing where I've been comfortable.
Right. Well, and it's uncomfortable because we've suppressed it. So the times when you stop, whether you go on a silent meditation retreat or just going within and like, cause right, we've talked about a lot on our shows, is like, we do things to kind of suppress those feelings, you know, whether it's eating chocolate or eating food, and it's like, or doing something, or going on social media, or doing things to kind of suppress that feeling. But it's like, when we really allow it to release, it's a beautiful thing. But yes, it's uncomfortable to begin with, because we've pushed that down. We've pushed that little caged child. I know I've got one, and I've talked to it, and it's upset too, you know, it's been mad at me. So I get that, but we've pushed it down. But once we start to reconnect with it, that, you know, you connected with your child was happy again. It's like, thank you. But it was mad to begin with.
Oh, and it was like the freedom that I felt from that. But I mean, at the beginning, well, I remember sharing with you, you know, around that point, it was really, you know, and I've done a lot of work, and man, it was really scary. It was just like, wow, you know, what's going on? Am I going to have a heart attack? What, you know, what's in it? Oh, and it was really uncomfortable.
Right.
And yeah, luckily for me, with the, you know, with the work I've done and the skills, the tools that I've got, I was able to go, Phil, look, no one can fix this. You have to sit with it right now, because this is all you've got. All you've got is you right now. And you've got to sit with it, and you've got to go into it. You know, and luckily with things like EFT, the coloured mirrors work I've done, matrix re-imprinting, the avatar training that I've done, all that stuff gives me tools to be able to go, okay, right, I'm going to get over myself. I'm going to get over the fear. You know, and the great thing with EFT is, if you've got fear, you can sit and tap the EFT points and go, even though I've got all this fear, I know I'm safe.
Right.
For example. And that just, well, even though I've got all this fear, of course, brings the fear to the surface, and then I know that I'm safe, contains it. So you know that you're safe within that fear, you know that you're safe, and then you've got a tool to contain, not control, but to contain all that fear. And in that containment, you can then attach to that feeling and actually go through that feeling. And then when you're in a child, eventually you can have a dialogue and your child pops up. With matrix re-imprinting, you can then go into that picture, into that timeline with that child, and you can then communicate with that child within that timeline. And that's where these tools are really useful.
Mm-hmm. And I think these tools are essential for us as we're going through this process, because otherwise it's too much. You know, it's most people, it won't be, if it just goes from somebody totally asleep and go, okay, I'm going to go on a 40-day fast, or I'm going to go into the woods for 3 weeks. It's going to be too much if you don't have the tools. And it's kind of like in the movie The Matrix, where, you know, it's like most souls we can't awaken because it's, you know, it's they wouldn't be able to handle it. You know, they would crash. And that's our job, you know, anyone we're working on this process, to give people the tools, EFT, different things to just help support us in that unfolding, because it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing when, you know, for anyone that's awakening, depending on what your toolkit is, we all need support. You know, and even like for us, like with Phil and myself, is, you know, at least we have got each other. You know, if one of us gets stuck, we can say, hey, can you have it? It's a bit difficult with our time slots we've got, because either I'm in bed or Phil's in bed, or he's at work or I'm at work, or whatever way around it is. But at least we can say, hey, look, can we just check in for 5 minutes? You know, that's a really useful tool, having a good. I'll tell you what hit me the other day, Phil. I was down in Forest Row. That's where I've been, down in East Sussex, and I was down in Forest Row, and I saw a woman that I haven't seen for quite a while. And she said, "Oh, where are you living?" And I said, up in Oxford." And she said, "Oh, have you got a good community around you?" And I was like, "No." And it really dawned on me that actually, for doing the work that I'm doing, I don't have a good local community. I've got friends all over the world now, but having that local people local to you, or local facilities like 5 Rhythms Dancing or Biodance or Shaking, or, you know, whatever, you know, yoga. We have got yoga around us, and that's something I need to get back into again now. Well, I say lockdown's gone, but Boris is on about putting us into lockdown again soon, so.
Right. And we just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know, but, you know, it's good if you can have that level of support, not necessarily directly close friends, but that ability that you can go and do Qigong, go and do Tai Chi, go and do yoga, for some people, go to the gym, you know. It's but you know, you can do these things on your own. You can go for a walk, which is brilliant. You can do yoga on your own, which is really great. However, there is nothing like community.
Yeah, human connection, the heart-to-heart connection is critical. And, you know, these lockdowns have been very traumatic for people. And, you know, the masks and this lack of connection, it's not healthy. We need that, to be able to look in people's eyes, see their facial expressions, connect to the heart level. But society has got us all in our heads, in our phones, not really connecting. And like when we have that community and that people, it's like we play off each other. It's like our mate, when you came up to see me when I was staying with my parents, and like every day we just got stronger. Like we went and we were dancing around a stone circle, and just like, you know, you were pushing me a little bit, I was pushing you, and we were just like starting to expand, because like human to human connection by somebody who's trying to reconnect, like we create magic and miracles. Like it's incredible. So
you know, and that's what I was doing, Phil, when I was talking about the far circle that I was running. You know, it's so important to have that connection. And that, you know, the far circles that I was running, there was sometimes there was me on my own, which was great, and sometimes there'd be 10 or 12 of us. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'd hold the space, and I'd open a sacred space, and then within that we would journey together. And that's actually, that was like, that was like a spiritual kind of soul adventure. And that's really important. And actually, what we did, Phil, what a great opportunity to be able to offer people is to go and do that, go to a stone circle, go to a sacred site with reverence, with gratitude, with the space being held, and challenge each other. Sometimes things are really for some people, things like we did, where we ran around the stone circle and created the energy of the circle, and built the circle up, and then sent the energy of the circle up into the universe, which was really magical. For some people that's going to be super challenging.
Yeah.
And for other people it's going to be second nature.
Yeah. Well, we had to get into our little kids. We had to get into our kids' state in a strong way. We had to get out of our heads, out of this like serious state. And once we dropped into that play, it was just a divine dance. It was just a dance. It was beautiful.
And that's what we need to encourage in each other.
Yeah.
Is to be childlike and not childish.
Yeah, we weren't. It was beautiful. We weren't being childish. We weren't. It was playful and joyful. It was childlike, and yet our intent was creating, peace and good energy and playfulness, and it was,
and magic. And man, when we stepped back from that circle, that it was completely humming.
I think that's why the universe didn't allow us to record that. Remember, like, we tried to record something, and it got like deleted. And I think it's because it was so in alignment. It was like, you can't record something like that. Like, some of the most amazing experiences we can't record,
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And that's something that, I would like to, and I know you would as well, actually be able to offer that out, so we can go do that, Phil. We can go and do.
Yeah, I just think of some of the things Susan and I have done together. Some of our most amazing experiences were like jumping in cold pools. Like, we would go out and try and find a cold pool to just jump in. It's a very simple thing, but it was just like, we were in nature, all our clothes off, and we jump in this cold pool and we scream. And just remembering that, I remember we did a road trip across the States, and we ended up in Colorado, and we just found this, like, it was just like this glacial, like, river running, I don't know, just randomly out there. And we just jumped in, and it was just, I remember that moment of coming out of the water and just like feeling alive and energized, and feeling really connected to Susan at the same time. And it was just like, yeah, it was a beautiful experience. And yeah, that's just more of that.
Yes, mate. And that's, that's the adventure, isn't it? That, we don't have to go thousands of miles away. We have to create little adventures often that and also that take us out of our comfort zone, like that, jumping into a freezing cold pool, or dangling over something to get to a spring to fill up. That's, some of these things are so simple, and yet they're so pleasurable. I've been to different springs and filled up bottles of water, and then and there with that, been chatting to people and been invited places.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
So yeah, when I came to England and spent that month last year, I think it was one of the happiest. And actually, some of the happiest times were at the Tree of Life at the early stages when I was running the cafe. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But when I was at last year, like, spending that month, like, every day I was like going and doing a cold shower, and then I would go find my little waterfall, which I took you to, and I would jump in the waterfall and just walk through and looking at the green leaves, and just really peaceful and beautiful. And then there was like a point where, I think it'd been a couple of weeks, there was just like, I was driving somewhere. I was going off to take my bike and go for a bike ride. And I don't know if I told you this, but I just started crying. And I was crying for like 15 minutes, but it wasn't like sad, or it was just this release. And it was just like, I can't even describe it, but I was just crying and just feeling this beautiful energy moving through me. It was just joyful and just like I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, it was just bliss, you know, pouring through my body, because I think I was just being in alignment in truth, you know. So I don't know what it was.
Absolutely, Phil. I get that. I totally get that. Yeah, I was up in my thoughts about when you were talking then about similar things, you know, and like when we were at that stone circle, you know, and we were just in it.
Remember when? So then the first time I came over to see you, it was with Susan, and we went to some historic site. We lay in the field.
Blenheim Palace.
We went to Blenheim Palace, and I just remember us lying on the grass and just looking up into the sky, and it was the most. I know Susan remembers that moment. I know you do, and it was just the most blissful experience. And all we were doing was lying on the ground. We were watching. You know, you see those little weird squiggles when you like look into the sky, and we were just looking at that and laughing. And it was like simple nothingness. We weren't achieving something. We weren't buying something. There was no goal. It was just, we were really in that presence. You know, it was just
Yeah, and that, yeah, we were in the present, and we were in the present.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's actually Phil, some of the best times I've had have been with you, and actually they've been doing on a level very little. like running around a stone circle, or lying on the grass looking at the sky, or when we were at the Tree of Life and we got round to I forget where we got to, but we ended up throwing that mud at each other. Do you remember?
Why am I not remembering that? I vaguely remember something.
and well, we were going through a process together, and when we came back into the cafe, we were just beaming. And that was just because we processed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd actually, and I think that's one thing when we're together that we're very good at doing is processing.
Mm-hmm.
We process our stuff, each other's stuff, whatever. We process it very well together. So I feel very grateful for that ability.
Yeah, I was really happy when I was in the cafe making food for people. There's a real magic to making food for people, especially like it was just like this creative, like especially when I was running it. It was just like creative play. It was like there was no rules. We had no real start time or end time. It was just this play of like, okay, what can we create today? We didn't really like, that was the best time, and there was no menu. There was no real schedule. It was just like we have all of these paintbrushes and like, what are we going to create for people? And then my favorite thing was like laying out the table and making it really beautiful, and just watching people come in and doing a prayer and then cleaning up too. And it was like, it was all gone. Did that even happen? But it was like the energy of it. It didn't even feel like work. It was just beautiful. Making food for people, making people happy, creativity, play, joy. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I loved it when I was there with you guys. It was just, yeah, incredible. And like that, you know, something simple that we used to do.
And you were working non-stop. Sorry, Phil, I interrupted you. You said that before, where you just were there all the time and you had plenty of energy. It wasn't like, oh God, I've got to stay here till 11 o'clock tonight to finish this, whatever I'm finishing, this nut milk or something. It's like you were just doing it and you were energized.
It was different, even though quite a lot of the time then I was struggling with my energy and I was very tired. It wasn't because I was working. That was my own stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And I never wanted to finish in the cafe. Mm-hmm. I was never working to a deadline. I was working until we finished. And in the mornings, it was just like, I wasn't starting work. We were just going to have fun.
It's like, I can't wait to get there. You know, it's like,
you know, I'd be there in the morning, 6:45 waiting. You know, because it didn't matter how tired I was. it outweighed the tiredness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and I think if you're really loving something, that's what I was thinking again. I forget when it was. Yes, I've done this last week. I've done so much with being in different places and working, and I've just been working for my friends. Like I said, that used to be my geomancy and shamanic teachers. So, I get up in the morning and go and see my friend Jules, and we process for half an hour. Then I'd work. She'd make me a bit of lunch. I'd stop. Then we eat our lunch and process for half an hour. Then I'd go off, and then she'd come and find me and process something. Then I'd carry on again. It's been brilliant, because it's not, even though I've worked hard doing what I've done, we've been processing, and she's been dreaming about, what tree can we plant here and what tree can we plant there, and how can we break that view, and I don't want people to be able to see straight from there to there. So how can we position something so you're not creating an open gateway, but you're creating so you can't see the gateway, but when you walk around a corner, whoosh, there's the gateway and you can go through. So it's all about, so how can we protect the front door from the car park? Not the car park, but where the cars are parked. And if we move that, and yes, it opens up the energy, but does that then kind of invoke the car energy into the house, and when people are just kind of visiting, do we want that to be open to come in, or do we want that to be closed? And if we put that plant pot there or that plant pot there, what does it do to the flow of that? And so it wasn't just working.
And that's part of your job, right? That's part of your building job that you're doing.
With certain clients, yeah, it's looking at how the energies are going to go. I did a geomancy job down near Winchester, and on a really nice old 15th or 16th century building, and that whenever the work was being done, it kept going wrong, it kept getting delayed, they had lots of problems, all sorts of stuff going on. And partly what I was saying to them is, you've got to keep the hawthorn trees for the magic. You've got to keep this area here so you can create magic. I said, but one of the things you need to do is, their drive came straight down into the front door. I said, you get all that energy, it's just going to whistle in the front door and out the back door. So what you need to do is create a sweeping drive down, and then have a roundabout outside the front door. So you've got something, so the energy hits it and goes around, it doesn't go straight through. And I went back to do a consultation 6 months or so later on, and they've done that. They'd actually rebuilt the whole drive down and put a roundabout outside their house. So they didn't just...
Well, these ancient builders knew that. Like, how many great palaces have that kind of energy? So they knew energy work,
They knew the energy work. So
whether they were using it for good or bad, who knows? But they knew the flows of energy.
They certainly knew the form. They knew the form, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's interesting. I was building them a greenhouse base. And what my friend was doing, one of the things that's amazing is she knows in their sky on spring equinox and autumn equinox exactly where the sun's going to be for the greenhouse.
Wow.
So we were moving the footprint of the greenhouse around, because she said, look, it's going to be in March, in the March equinox, it's going to be the same as the September equinox, roughly. So wherever the sun is now, that's where the sun's going to be in March. So she said, what we need is for that greenhouse to get the maximum sun at this time of year for the spring.
So when it would be cold, then you're trying to get max sun.
Yeah, she was getting maximum warmth in the greenhouse. So we were moving the base around at, say, I don't know what time it was, 11 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, right, this is going to be 11 o'clock in, roughly the end of March. So this is where we need to be to get the best spring sun. And it's like, what an amazing idea.
So what I was thinking is, it's not necessarily building that's what you are not aligned with. Maybe it's working with clients who you're not aligned with. So if you're working with clients, you'll do anything. Like, if it's, especially if it's like you're working with the energies. So it's not necessarily the act of building that you don't like, or creation. It's like, I want to work with people I'm in alignment with and understand the natural energies of the earth, and then you could do anything, right? Am I right, or what do you think?
Well, I think actually, Phil, that's very spot on. And I was looking during lockdown at green timber building, where the guy was doing a course on, he was offering a course on doing simple green wood structures with like, I think there are, I've forgotten the name of the roof, but it's a spiral roof, and all the timber at the top sits on top of each other and interlinks, and the roof holds itself up.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think it's more of the type of work and the clients that I need to change.
Right. And there's got to be people who want this.
Yes,
we know there is.
Yeah,
that's good. And then it'll be a play too, because a person who's in alignment with that is probably also going to want to talk about nutrition and health, and they're probably going to want to eat healthy. They've probably got a garden that they're growing food in. Like, these are our people that we want to work with. So we're playing. It's like some days we're making food for them. Some days we're laying down a little pathway in their garden or something. You know, so we want this creativity and play. So it's not just like every day we're putting in a toilet, you know, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. You know, and then I went off to the sawmills because we had some, I couldn't get what I wanted to do for the greenhouse base. So I ended up laying the greenhouse base on, I got the guy at the sawmills to cut me some 7 by 7 inch by 4 inch chestnut sleepers. And then I put those on gravel, dug the topsoil, the turf and the topsoil out. Then I put a weed suppressant membrane down so the worms couldn't bring the soil into the gravel. And then I put the beams on top of the gravel so they wouldn't sit in the water. So to offer them some drainage out.
Right.
And, so we went off and found this sawmill, and they sawed us some timber while we waited. Well, they were just finishing off sawing it when I got there. So we had this freshly milled green chestnut in the van, which just made the van smell divine. And then, you know, I come back and I'm working with freshly cut chestnut to make a greenhouse base. And it's just beautiful. You know, that wasn't tannalized because we didn't want that tannalized treated crappy wood in a greenhouse, right?
Right.
And actually I chose that because I was inspired by your dad, because your dad last year when I was with him, we were talking about his raised beds and the cloches and cold frames and stuff that he'd made, and he'd made them all out of larch. So actually I was trying to find larch. That's what I was trying to do, but I couldn't. I had to wait like a month or 6 weeks before they could cut me any larch, and because I also wanted it more than 2.4 meters long. So I phoned this old sawmill. No, you haven't any larch. The old boy said, but I can do you some chestnut, and that's a hardwood, and that will last longer than the larch. And I was like, oh, happy days. Let's have that then.
Right.
So that was inspired. That greenhouse base, although normally you build it on bricks, it was a question of time. We needed it done while in the time frame that I was there, and I was remembering the conversation that I'd had with your dad about the larch and going, wow, I never knew that about larch. So then I took that conversation with your dad and used it on that job that I was just in the other day.
That's so cool. Love that.
Yeah, exactly. Love that. So, you know, that was bringing back a great time from last summer into now, and the information that that me and your dad had just chatted about in the garden actually then became useful for me to work with. So yeah, absolutely, Phil. I think you're spot on. I love the building, and I get told that I'm very good at it. So transformation of the building, maybe. and how to bring that. That's what I'd like to do, is bring the geomancy into the work I do. And when you're doing building maintenance, you can't really go bring a geomancy in and all the energetics into changing a brick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you want a client who's like, say I've got a house there in England, and they're like, okay, Phil, I want you to help me design this garden and the greenhouse and the layout of the garden that best energizes the house. I mean, it's kind of connecting with like permaculture and biodynamics. It's like working in harmony with the nature. It's like one day we're building a raised bed, another day we're building a path, maybe putting a pond in, whatever we're doing. It's like, I want you to do that. So
yeah, and I think the thing with geomancy is it goes brilliantly with the permaculture, and what it does is it gives the permaculturists another level, another layer to work with. So I know that a lot of them are already energy conscious, but it's understanding where the energy streams are running and what they're going to do and what they're going to bring and what differences it makes. Like for instance, bees always live on negative energy lines. So one of the things you've got to check around the area if you're clearing up the negative energy lines is, are there any bees?
Oh.
If you clean up the negative energy line where there's bees, the bees will either die or leave.
So sometimes, I suppose they're not really negative then.
Well, they might be detrimental to your health.
Right.
Or your building, or your livestock, or your horse, or your dog. But it's really important for your cat and for the bees.
It's that thing, like good and bad bacteria. Like there's really no such thing. It's just what's yeah.
Well, it's the appropriateness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you clean up a certain energy line, is that going to cause a problem?
Right, because sometimes it's just needed for whatever reason.
Well, if there's a beehive, if there's a beehive on it, you've either got to move the beehive somewhere. If the stream's really causing health issues, right? If it's causing cancer or any detrimental illness, and you can't move or you can't change, unless say you've got bees down the road, then the next plan would be, hey, let's move these bees, find them a really great spot to be, and then let's clean up this line.
Yeah, I really want to keep bees and have a beehive. So
brilliant. Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's and every bit of land needs a beehive, right?
That's really cool. I mean, bees have such a positive energy. Yeah, they need I've never heard that before. They need to live on what we would call negative energy.
Yeah, or traumatized energy line. So, for instance, where someone would dig in a lamppost, mm-hmm. that would create trauma. So, if the little people haven't been corresponded with, or there hasn't been an offering, if you think about building a house, right? Mm-hmm. The first ceremony in the old days was cutting up the turf. Mm-hmm. So they'd have a local councillor or a local deacon or someone, and they would cut the turf. Mm. Then the next ceremony would be laying of the first stone, right? Mm-hmm. And you see often in buildings they have this stone was laid by so and so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's the honouring, and then the last part of the build would be finished, and someone would then break a bottle of champagne on the chimney. Mm. So that's like the same as they do on a boat, right? They always smash it. They always have a sailing ceremony. So in the building they call it the topping out ceremony.
Okay.
This was always done on big projects. It was always done. It wasn't done on worker bee houses, of course.
Right.
But any big project, town halls, churches, all those kind of things, they always had cutting of the turf, laying of one of the foundation stones, bricks, and the topping out ceremony. They'd always have the ceremonies.
So again, today we look at that and go, "Oh, that's just some ancient ritual, like old ritual. This is what it's a tradition." But kind of what you're saying is there's like a lot behind those traditions that we've forgotten about. We just do it, but really there's something about it.
It's all about the honouring. You know, and it's the same as, you know, if I'm doing any woodland restoration work, which I'm hopefully going to get back into this winter. Hopefully fingers crossed, we'll have a drier winter this year, so we can get and do some work. And you know, that's one of the things I do is I walk through the woodland, you know, maybe on a Sunday or an evening or something beforehand, and I just go over it in my mind, saying, okay, well, we're gonna, you know, we've done this, this, and this, and we've done that. And if Kay's with me, then I'll talk out loud to Kay and say, oh, well, we did this, Kay, and we've done that, and we're doing this, and next time we're going to move on to this. Because what that conversation does is it allows everything energetically in the area to be in alignment with you. So when you turn up with your chainsaw, your axe, and your hook, and all these people to transform the woodland from a dying wreck into something that springs forth life in the spring, it's traumatized.
Right.
You know, one of the things that we've had said when we've been working is everybody that walks past has gone like, wow, what are you doing? That's just transformational. And of course, I haven't told them of the kind of spiritual connection, communication that I've had with the land before we start, and all the way through, I'm holding space when everyone's working, and sometimes I can feel that it's too much. It's like, okay, tea time. So we stop. We all stand around, have a chat, bit of cake, biscuit, whatever anyone's eating, tea, coffee, water, whatever. Have our little chat, and it's like, okay, guys, we can go, you know, and we go back at it again. It's a little bit like a dog or a cat, and you're combing them, and you overcomb them, and they go.
Yeah.
The dog kind of nibbles your arm, or the cat lashes out because they've had enough. And you know, I've found when I've been working in the woods, it's just the same. So it's like, let's stop, step back, reconfigure, have a cup of tea. You know, in England, it's great. Put the kettle on, have a cup of tea. It solves all sorts of problems.
Because you're stopping and allowing instead of like there's this drive. Okay, got to get the job done. Got to push through this, and it's not even the opposite where you do nothing and you're trying to tune in, and you are tuning into those cycles and the natural cycles, and the breathing, the inhale, the exhale, the natural cycles, instead of like, we're going to start at 9, we're going to go there and we're going to get this done. It's like, no, we're actually honoring our bodies, honoring the people around us, honoring nature, cycles.
That is my intention at the beginning as well, because of course within this you've got to have structure, and you've got to have some kind of construct, and you've got to have some kind of an aim. Right, by the end of today I want to get to here. However, one of the things I've found is if something starts to get sticky, or people fall over, or someone gets cut, or something happens, that's time to stop. Not push through.
Right.
To stop, reflect, if necessary, clear some energy, and then crack on.
It's those warning signs that we get, and we get those where we stumble, or we cut, like you say, we cut ourselves, or we're resisting, or we trip up, you know, those things. We drop something. Like this, and sometimes it's really, really subtle. If we can catch it when it's subtle, then we're not going to hurt ourselves, but we ignore those, and then it becomes a big incident. I think you've talked to me about that before, where you've worked with people that just keep injuring themselves or something, or even you, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you kept hurting yourself because you were trying to push through and get a job done.
Yeah, and actually, you know, I was on a job with my colleague, and this is when I just recently done the coloured mirrors training with all the sprays, and we actually used sprays of different colours and smells and frequencies, and we were doing this job, and it was so difficult. It was just I kept cutting things wrong and making mistakes, and I was like, wow, you know, what, because it's not like me, right? So it's like, what is going on? So I said to Amy, just hang on a minute, I'm just going out there. And I used to carry the sprays around in the van, and I had a few. And I had one which was red, which is all about grounding. And then I had another one called Clear Angel, which is all about clear, right? So what we did was I would spray and honor the energies in the building. So I'd wait until the client's gone out, and then I would spray the red one for grounding, and spray the clear one for clearing, and we'd clear and ground the energies. And then work, it was just amazing. The work would just flow.
Just a simple little act like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I need to remind myself again to you know, pull out the colors. I'm probably going to go. I'll go back at some point and do a little bit more, you know, remembering training, just reconnect with it all, because it's been so useful. Yeah, and that's, you know, and we're getting into the real subtle rounds, but that's what I've been reminded of this weekend. Well, this weekend I've been down there all week. Oh yeah, I was on I just dropped Kay off at Brighton, hadn't I, when I was doing the Sunday show with you last week. And then I went on to see my friends, and then I just picked up Kay and dropped off at my mum and dad's and come back home today. So yeah, it's been really actually interesting. Oh, and I've been sleeping in my van by a stone circle and shower. I was talking to you earlier about the bush shower, and showering outside. It's been a bit dry in England now. It's a bit drafty. So
Windy.
It's been really windy the last few days. So, but yeah, you know, and we're back to that, invigorating. Just sleeping in my van, waking up in the morning with the birds, and stepping out of my van. I mean, I've been very grateful that it's been dry. You know, it's been, for living in a van, it's great weather. So,
yeah, some of those. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Phil, when you come over, we'll have to do the Phil and Phil show live from somewhere, and we'll have to do some, create some classes and tours together, so we can take people to stone circles and
Yep. Mm-hmm.
and play and energize the circles, and go do some. Maybe we could go one day and do some little waterfall dipping, and go collect spring water.
Yeah.
And just have classes, you know, and do some honouring and things.
Yeah.
Really good fun.
It's time for to reconnect with those energies and a new world to be born. So, yeah.
Oh, Phil, I got as Kay calls them, spirit bumps. When you said that, then they went right up and down my spine. Yes, brother, it is time.
So when you're working with a house and energetic, so what do you, maybe it's hard to describe it, but
I like that.
maybe it's even impossible because it's more of a feeling, right? But you go to a home, yeah, there's probably some stuff in your head, like, okay, this can't have a driveway this way, but are you tuning into energies? What are you doing specifically?
Right, okay, so as the builder's point of view, if I'm energetically looking at a property, right, and we can see on the left-hand side of the property, there's brambles and nettles, and it's really untidy. So we know there that you've got a distressed energy line.
Mm.
Then we go and look across the front of the house, and maybe you can see that from the gutter, there's a break line in the guttering. So the joiner on the gutters come apart. And then when you look a little bit further down, there's a split in the brickwork. Then you come a little bit further down, and one of the panes of glass is broken. Then you come and look a little bit further down, and where someone's fitted the outside tap, they've done a really bad job.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
I would know there's a negative energy stream running through there.
So it wasn't that the tap was fitted badly, it was the underlying energy stream.
The underlying energy stream.
Mm.
because the underlying trauma would draw in somebody that wasn't going to do a good job. Or even if they were going to do a good job, they couldn't do a good job because they were fighting the energies.
Right.
And then, you know, inside, I mean, I was in a classic job in, I think we were down in Lewis looking at a property. And you could see down in the basement where they'd done the painting. And there was all this spilt paint in a line. Get your dowsing rods out and there's a negative energy stream.
Wow.
And then you'll find that there's a certain area that's beautifully decorated and clean, and the wife says, oh yeah, whenever I go over there it always makes me smile, or I always dance in that spot. Or the other classic, so that would be, you know, there's an energy portal, there's a spring, there's a crossing of two sweet energy lines, and then you'll find other couples will say, we always argue in the same place. We always have our arguments in that point, or the, you know, the wife or the husband, whichever way around, will say he or she always drops something when they're over there. Mm-hmm. And if you pay attention, if you start to look around your house, you'll see places where you and Susan or you or Susan would prefer to sit. Mm-hmm. You'll go for your little afternoon siesta. You'll find that, you know, if you think about it, oh yeah, when we've had our disagreements, we've always been stood at this end of the room or at that end of the room or by the cooker. So cookers, right? Cookers create fire. So fire transforms negative energy. Mm-hmm. If you've got a negative energy stream or a crossing point that you can't shift, and it's in the kitchen, you want to design the kitchen, that's where you put your cooker. Mm-hmm. So it would burn up the negative energy and the radiation that's created from these energy lines. The fire would burn it up. So for instance, like at your front door, if you wanted to get sweeter energy in the house, you have a curved path. You never have a straight line. Mm-hmm. The curved path slows the energy down. The straight line energy just goes bam. You open the door. Right. Bam. So yeah, lots of
like the simple feng shui things. You don't want a corner pointing to you or stuff like that, like basic stuff. Some of those are obvious, but not if you don't know, and not if you haven't tuned in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you don't want to be able to see your front door from your back door from your front door and things like that. You know, they need to be offset. So there's lots of things. There's lots of things to take into consideration if you were building or doing renovations.
So it's more like, and I think, you know, you could learn a lot of this stuff in a book, but then as you start to tune into it, I imagine that you start to see other things that you didn't read in a book. You go, oh, well, I see these brambles here, you know, like whatever it is. Like, no book's going to tell you that. So
like stinging nettles, right? They always grow in negative energy streams.
And are they actually balancing out that negative energy stream? Is that part of their role? Like the bees?
I guess they're when nettles by nature are transformative, right? Mm-hmm. So on a level, they're going to be doing the best they can. Mm-hmm. Now that's kind of so negative energy so it's very acidic, whereas positive energy is alkalizing. Mm-hmm. So it's it's fascinating.
I love this stuff.
and you know, and I've only scraped the surface of it.
But I think as you do it more, you'll just more and more tune into it. Like you get into that play, and I bet you know of times where you've been in a flow with it. Like you've worked a certain job and you start doing it, and then you see other things that you might not have seen before because you're in that flow, you're in that play.
Well, I remember when I was doing tree surgery years ago, and my same friends. This is actually how I met what became my shamanic teacher, Jules, was I was down on their property just after I'd done my tree surgery training, and I was helping my guy out running a course, and we were doing primitive survival skills. And while I was there, I'm like, oh man, can I climb this tree? Because then I always had my rope and my harness and my kit. It was always in the van. And the guy that owned it, which now turns out to be a really good friend of mine, said, you can, but if you want to climb it, I want you to take your chainsaw up and do some tree surgery while you're up there for me. I was like, yep, cool, I can do that. If I can climb the tree, I'll do that. And he was telling me about, how this hurricane had ripped through the tree in 1987, and this was 2002, I think. Yeah, this was 2002, and a hurricane had gone through in 1987. And he was telling me what he wanted done to the tree. And I was like, yep, cool, yep, I can do that. When I get up there, I can see that, and I can do that. And then that evening we were stood in the stone circle, because this oak tree is just across the field from the stone circle. And we stood in the stone circle, and I was stood in the fire pit. And all of a sudden I heard in my mind, no, you can't do that to me. You can't do that to me. No, I don't need to do that. Then I realised it was the oak tree talking to me. So I was like, so in my mind, I was like, oh wow, so you're talking to me. Okay, so if you don't want me to do what I've just been told to do, what do you want me to do? And she said to me, well, what I want is this big limb cut out that's been hit by the hurricane that's really hurting me. I want this and this and this taken out. And when you come up to me, I'll show you what else. And I was like, I was completely blown away. So my friend Richard, that actually is a master dowser and geomancer and acupuncturist and feng shui man, I said, Richard, I've just done a little, the trees just talked to me. And he's like, really? I said, yes. So I told him what the tree had said, and he's like, oh, okay, forget what I've just told you. Do what the tree wants you to do. So I was like, this is all a bit weird now, isn't it? I'm going to go and do, so it turned into psychic tree surgery, right?
Wow, that's a whole business right there, psychic tree surgery.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I was up the tree, and I did the work exactly as I was told to do, and then at the exact point, the tree said, that's it now, I'm done. Get down. Put the saw down, got down out the tree, and then when his wife came back, she'd been in Australia for a while, she came back and she's like, wow, who's done the tree? Because I want to meet him. And Richard said, oh, that's my little tree elf, Phil. So I went down and met her, and from that she became my shamanic teacher and took me to Australia.
Whoa, that's cool.
And so Richard described me as a master with the chainsaw whilst dancing with the divas. However you can work that out, but anyway, that's so from and that was before I'd done the work with them. That was when I just done tree surgery and shamanic work. Mm-hmm. That was before I'd done the whole geomancy training with them. Mm-hmm. So that's so that grew from doing the shamanic. I did shamanic work, and I did tree surgery, and then I did psychic tree surgery for a while. And then that then led me on to, from doing the shamanic work, to getting into the geomancy and listening to the earth. Actually, when I was at the tree field, I was given this amazing book by this guy that I'd given a bit of coaching to. I've got no idea what his name was, but he came back to the tree the day that me and you were in, the only day I'd gone out.
Into Tucson, right?
We went to Tucson together for the day. And when I came back, there was this book. Do you know this book? It's brilliant.
No, wow.
So the title of the book is called Talking to the Ground. And that's the book that this guy gave me. I can't remember his name, but he was having heart problems, and basically I just said to him, man, it's your heart's cracking open, and it's time that you started listening to your heart and honouring it. I gave him a bit of a hard time about not listening to his heart, and he came back to the tree the next day to bring me that book.
Incredible.
So it's basically the Navajo creation story.
Mm.
So it talks about all the sacred sites, and it talks about the battles between the Navajo nations and the aliens.
Wow.
So it goes through their whole, it's a journey all the way through the Navajo nation, talking about the first, second and third world.
Mm. What's
And
that? First, second and third world.
Yeah. And now we're in the fourth creation.
Mm-hmm.
And before, and there's just been these battles. Where was that picture just there? Yeah, I just flicked through so he was talking about one mountain, and the mountain was actually the alien slayer. Yeah, no, I can't find things. But it was just talking about the battles between the Native Americans and the aliens. Mm-hmm. And how, all this stuff had happened. Mm-hmm. I've got a page mark in there. That must be interesting. So it says it was more than a new translation. Zolbrod understood that this epic creation story, the Deni Bahani, which means the creation of the people, was still believed by the Navajo people. As a result, he was able to collect many unknown portions of the story, as well as restore passages that Matthews had left out for the reason of Victorian propriety. Yeah. So what got me onto that was that book's actually really appropriate for what we are just been sharing, which is talking to the earth.
Right. So we started the show off with singing I was talking about singing your song, and what you shared is you singing your song. That is your song, Phil. It's beautiful.
Interesting, isn't it, Phil? In that, and yeah, thanks, Phil. Who knew that was coming out tonight? But I think it's coming because of that. That work that I've been doing this week with my friends. Getting out, living in my van, getting back in nature again, physically working hard and doing building work, but also having that time to transform and share and process and not doing the grind.
Yeah.
You can do hard work that isn't. The Tree of Life in the cafe was hard work. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't the daily grind, was it? Because it was exciting and fun. And with you there every day at the tree was an adventure, wasn't it? Because we didn't know who was turning up next, what conversation you have, what ritual you do.
Yeah, it just reminded me of a totally different subject. Well, not subject connected to that. There was this one day, so Susan was doing this online class, and it was, you had to do a compassion exercise. That was the thing. So we got this, I don't know whose idea, Susan and I I don't know how we came up with this. We got this bag of rocks. So we were living in Tucson at the time, and our compassion exercise, we were just I don't even know what we were doing. We just started going, we got on a bus, and we started to talk to people, and we gave them a rock. I can't remember the exact details, but we just gave them a rock and told them how amazing they were. And we said, pick a rock. This is a gift. And we were walking around the city and talking to people in bus stations, and we were just in flow. And it was just like that beautiful experience. And all we were doing was like, say, hey, take a rock. This simple little, I don't know why I remembered that right now, but it was just like that flow, that beautiful flow and just I just remember some of the, meeting some just amazing people and just people on the street and this, and it was just that simple act of connecting with another human being, just heart to heart, and it was just like this gift and this connection, and we weren't buying something from them, they weren't buying something from us. It was like an exchange of energy with people. I don't know why that came up right now, but it popped into my head. So
well, I think it's perfect because actually to give credit to you, it's about flow, and it's about singing your song. And your song actually is about connecting with people. You love, you have a real gift to be joyful and to be playful and to connect with people. You have a real gift, my friends. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you just have this amazing, epic openness and this love that just beams out of you like the sun.
Oh, thank you.
And you're full of joy and you're full of positivity and you're full of treasure.
Thank you.
And and that's your song, isn't it? Not to be stuck not to be stuck in some warehouse. And sure, you're doing amazing work, but you're not singing your song because you're back on that treadmill of a Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah, and I've done well with it because I'm not a businessman. I was talking to Susan about it the other day. I'm not a guy that does the numbers. It's like the best things that I do is when I'm just I'm following my heart, and it's like I make it work. It's like I connect with the people, and I love the people, and I come up with creative ideas. Okay, how do we make this facility the best, cleanest air and energetically, pure, putting in EMF stuff, and it's like that's when I'm happiest, or making sure that there's no chemicals. But yeah, it's like I'm not fully in alignment with my soul's purpose when because it's like, but because I'm not a businessman, I'm not meant to be figuring out how to make profits and stuff like that. That's just I don't even resonate with that stuff, So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. For I run a business, I don't resonate with that either.
Right.
That's not. It is what I do, but it isn't what I do. I just,
Right.
People phone me up, I go do a job and charge them some money.
Yeah. And that can be a product of that, whatever that is. Like the old saying, do what you love and the money will follow. It's like, energy or exchange or food or what I mean, we put money into it, but it's like, if we're in alignment, that was the thing that came through when I had that reading in England last year. It was like, everything will be taken care of. But we're in this mindset of society where we have to do this and we have to make this much money and we have to do this to get this, and it's like the more we get into alignment, we don't have to do anything. It's it's taken care of. And that's what we're trying to figure out, or not figure out, or fall into, or surrender into, is that divine flow.
Well, I think the challenge is to allow it, isn't it? Is to allow.
It's scary a little bit, right? It's a little bit scary.
Absolutely, it's scary, yeah. And it's about allowing us and each other to sing our song, right? That one of the beautiful things that we do when we're together, whether we're on our show or we're in physically together, is we allow each other to sing.
Mm-hmm.
We hold space for each other and allow each other to actually dig deep and share.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what society would look at as doing nothing. But really we're doing is everything. I like Kyle Cease. I've talked about him before, but he has this thing where it's like, when we stop doing in society's way, we're infinitely abundant. But when we're in this I can't remember the exact terms. It's just when we're in this, I got to do this to make this much money. But when we get into we surrender all of that and we let go of all those expectations and all of those goals, and just go within, we realize we're infinite consciousness. But society has got us into okay, we're a useless eater. We're only worth this much. We only get paid this much in this exchange. And the truth is we're infinite consciousness, infinite expression. The universe is flowing through us. We're connected to the cycles of nature and the cycles of the universe. Both of us started this call. We were talking about astrology. We're not thinking astrology is bad. We're just these are the cycles. And if we're in alignment with them, they enhance us. I kind of realized a while ago, it was with a friend of mine, with Mercury retrograde, where like there's this negative energy around Mercury retrograde in society. Oh, Mercury retrograde, that's when things don't work and communications don't happen. But when you tune into it, what I started to observe, this happened at the company every single time Mercury retrograde came in, and all of these projects that were on hold came into completion. And I don't know if you've noticed that, but I don't know if that's a written thing, but it was just like, oh, Mercury retrograde, that's cool, because now I'm not going to start anything new, but these projects that have been hanging around will all get completed. I don't know if that's just my made up thing or if that's a natural astrology thing, but that happens, so.
Well, that's the tuning in thing, isn't it? Mercury retrograde doesn't mean it's bad. It just probably means we're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Mercury retrograde, what does it mean? It means you're going to get bad communications and things are going to go wrong. Well, don't communicate. Don't start a new project. It's not rocket science. This is really easy. It's like now, right? We know now that Jupiter goes conjunct with Pluto, right, in October the 11th or 12th. And there's going to be a new moon. So new moon's all about, right, it's getting rid of the old. It's all about building up for the new. So we got the new moon, which is all about new and building. It's the new moon's just emptied, right? It's just gone from being full down to that black. Mm-hmm. So now you're creating, you're creating up to full moon, right? So we've got that rebirth of the moon coming, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm making this stuff up, by the way. So
good.
I am and I'm not, but so from the new moon to the full moon is waxing, so it's growing, so it's building. So it's about building something new, building a new future, building a new business, building a new whatever. It's building, so it's new. So Jupiter at that same moment in time is about expansion and growth, right? So the moon's about expansion and growth. It's going from new to full. So therefore you've got expansion and growth with the moon, expansion and growth with the sun. Then you've got travel in Jupiter. Well, the new moon's traveling to the full moon. So you see what I mean? You've got double all of that. And then Pluto's death and rebirth. Well, the new moon's about death. That's the end of that. And you grow into another full moon. And it's all about change. So you'll change. This is Pluto changing. You're changing from new moon to full moon. And the Phoenix rising is all about death and rebirth. The Phoenix rising out of the ashes. And that's exactly what the moon's doing as well. So, I mean, that's a really powerful experience, right? So it wouldn't be very good if you were trying to get something down, right? Maybe to finish off. But I reckon it'd be a brilliant time to travel. It would be a brilliant time to start a new business. It would be a brilliant time to do that bit of personal growth work that you wanted to do, because it's all about expansion, growth, travel, death, rebirth, change, Phoenix rising out of the ashes.
Beautiful.
So why would you decide to have a restful period?
Yeah.
Oh, I tried having early nights and being restful when Jupiter went conjunct Pluto. Well, of course it didn't work. That would create chaos, right? But if you decided to launch your business or try something new, go traveling, expand your consciousness, man, actually, I'm talking myself into that. This is the time to do it, right? 11th and 12th of October. So we're building up to that. So basically, we've been transitioning from kind of February, March. This has been a transition to building up. So what does that mean in the arena playground that we're in at this moment in time, right? What does that mean? The COVID, lockdown, masks. It's like, wow, it's the death of the old. It's rebirth of the new. It's change. It's the Phoenix. We're growing, traveling, expanding. Right? So what does it mean? I reckon it means that we've got to be really cautious on a level. we've got to be ready for a massive amount of expansion and growth. What does that look like? Expansion and growth, if you think about it, normally comes from difficult times. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, this is the acorn that's just breaking through. You know, in Matrix, it's him just getting out of his cocoon and realizing, fuck, I've been asleep. It's been a dream. So, you know, I think be very careful what you choose to do, what you choose to look at, what you choose to watch, what you choose to believe, because this is death and rebirth, it's expansion and growth. So actually, it's really exciting. But who knows what that transition period, that death and rebirth, that change, that growth, that expansion, and with expansion normally comes some kind of what we would perceive as suffering, right?
And that's only because we're not in the flow. I think the analogy keeps popping up in my head is like, our life is the river. Like, and sometimes the river's meandering slowly. Sometimes the rapids come, or sometimes there's a waterfall. But if we turn around and try and swim upstream, or we contract when we're going through the rapids, instead of just like surrendering into that beautiful river, like I suppose that's our task, to surrender into the natural cycles and rhythms of nature and the universe and spirit, because society is trying to put us in this rhythm of like the canal. It's the straight canal where the water's not flowing, it's not in alignment. Like, we want to be in the natural river where it's a dance and a play.
Well, you know, it's actually great with you, Phil, being a kayaker, because right, mm-hmm. that it's like when we were down at your mum and dad's after all that rain. You ain't going to try and go upstream.
Right.
You know, the river's flooding, right? Why would you go upstream? The only way you can really go is downstream, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And then when it all subsides, you can then go upstream.
Right.
And I think life's like that, but we're not, because we're not connected to the seasons, the planetary seasons, and we're not tuned into what I'm talking about now with the astrology. Is, you know, you've got expansion and growth. If someone was trying to retreat, as in, you know, to go inside and be really peaceful and quiet, and I think it's going to be a really difficult time. This is the time now to start a business. It's probably not a good time to travel, but it's time to go into your inner child, I think, and look at that death that we've created. Look at that death that we've that not death as in it's dead, but death as in dormant. You know, let's go in and look at the traumatized child. Look at the traumatized self. Look at all the fragmented self that's gone off. You know, let's bring that back in, integrate it. It's time for rebirth and change. You know, let's grow. Mm-hmm. Let's expand together and travel. You know, we can travel cosmically. We don't have to travel physically. And right. I think this is a great time to actually do a meditation and do some journeying and travel. Mm. I'm talking myself to running at the moment. We're on lockdown to 6 people in a group. So I reckon I'm talking myself into doing a shamanic drumming circle by the feel of this. Phil, I'm gonna have to put that out there.
Do it, and then 6 people. We'll take on the 6.
And just limit it to 6 people.
We'll take what we can get. Because that, you know, yeah, that's gonna have an impact.
That's to do it. If I do it physically, it's 6 people.
Yeah, no, I think you should do that. And I think we know we can do it digitally. We're connecting really well, but there's something else of that physical group that you can touch deeper, you know. So, because we're going to make the best. If technology is how you and I connect right now, we'll make use of it. And at the same time, you're gonna be like, okay, well, what can I do in the current construct? All right, 6 people. Okay, is there a place in nature where we can get away from it and away from society and connect with each other, build a fire? You know, totally.
Yeah, I've got that on a site where I used to do the fire circle before. We did it every week for about 2.5 years. Well, you know, unless I was off doing a festival or training or something. So I can go back to that site. I know I can use that. So yeah, I'm gonna make a date in my diary for that film. Although I know with a new moon quite often comes challenging weather, and to do it outside at night time.
It's unknown, right?
Say that again.
Unknown. You don't know if it's gonna pour with rain.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will look into that.
Great. Well,
Amazing film.
we've had an almost 2-hour show, so that flew by.
Where it all comes from, but I don't know where it all comes from, but we've had a fab time anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know if our audience enjoyed it or if, but we were having a good time.
But yeah, I mean, if you're on Facebook or you're on no, they're not
YouTube.
on Zoom. If
Watching
anyone's
YouTube.
on Facebook or watching us on YouTube, if you like our show, give us a thumbs up. If you don't like it, just give us a thumbs up anyway. Just encourage us and inspire us. Let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about or share or dive deeper on or find out about. Let us know. If anyone wants to come on our show and be interviewed, please get in touch.
Yeah, if you've got a song to sing and we can help you sing, then come on our show.
I love that, Phil. Yeah, if you want to sing your song, you come into the right place. Come on our show and we'll investigate it with you and see if we can encourage you, help you, or you can just share your song with the rest of the world. Yeah, if there's anyone that you'd like us to interview that you think would be fab on our show, please let us know. We'd love to hear about it. That Gabriel Cousins found our show and said, "Can I come on?" And we were like, "Happy days, yeah, come on." So we're going to have Live Blood on again soon. The Live Blood lady is going to come with Live Blood pictures and do. Yeah, I'm not sure what she's going to do altogether, but she said, "Do you want to see Live Blood?" And we're like, "Yeah, bring it on." So she's going to come and do Live Blood with us.
Fantastic. And you're going to get your friend, maybe does geomancy or something, maybe?
Oh, Jules or Richard that I was with the other day, actually, yeah. I can get both of them to come on.
I so want to learn more about that, so.
Fab, okay. I will talk to Jules. I'll make a note to call Jules.
Yeah, and if you want to make a donation to our show, you can go to philandphil.com and click the donate button for PayPal. You're going to make a donation. So we really appreciate everybody who's tuning in. It's helping us to evolve. Like, we're doing this, we're evolving out loud. We said that at the beginning, and hopefully everybody who's watching is enjoying that and evolving with us. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, really this show's about, like Phil said, consciously evolving out loud. It doesn't necessarily mean what I say I totally believe. It doesn't necessarily mean what Phil says he totally believes. And if we don't believe what each other's saying, we're like, well, actually, we don't feel it. And then we get to explore what we thought we believed and come out the other end believing whatever we do. Yep.
Great. Well, I'm Phil.
And I'm Phil.
And this has been
the Phil and Phil Show.
So thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching.